All right, everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. You are in Rooted in Joy, FEEST Youth Organizing for Food Justice. If this is where you're meant to be, welcome. If this is not where you're meant to be, still hang out with us. We love to have you. So let me just let a few more folks into the room as we're getting started. So please feel free to keep checking in the chat as you're coming in. But our check-in question is, we'd love to know your name, your pronouns, if you have any access needs today, and then what is your favorite summer food? So to get us started, I'll introduce myself and we'll kind of get started on the presentation, but please feel free to keep connecting and chatting in the chat. Like we love to see an active chat, you know. So welcome everyone, my name is Mari, I use all pronouns. I am a staff member at FEAST and I work as a youth organizer there. Today my access needs is I'll be drinking some water and probably stretching as the presentation goes on. And then my favorite summer food would probably have to be, I love a good fresh mango. Mango any time of the year really, but like a nice fresh in season mango, just like eating it right there, the best. And I'll pass to Hina to introduce herself.
Yummy. Hi everyone, my name is Hina. I use she, her pronouns. I am a youth leader here at FEAST. All my access needs are met, and I feel like my favorite summer food is a mangonada, especially ones from the trucks here in White Center.
Ooh, yes, so good. So yeah, welcome folks. If you want to keep checking in the chat, we'd love to see it. And we will get started today with a land acknowledgement. So we like to start all of our presentations with a land acknowledgement. And so I'm going to pass it off to Hina to lead us through this.
Yes, thank you, Mari. As we said, as Mari said, we always love to start our presentations with the land acknowledgement. And so for today, our land acknowledgement is, as we continue to educate ourselves on food justice, we must also acknowledge the impact of food justice / accessibility and its impact on Indigenous communities. While in the Seattle-Saskatoon County area, we continue to occupy stolen Duwamish and Coast Salish lands. And to find out what land you occupy and what land you are currently on, you could text your zip code, state, or city to 907-312-5085 or use this map.
Awesome. I will drop the link to that chat in the map. And then I think we have a little echo happening. So if folks can just mute themselves for the time being, please, that'd be awesome. And let's keep going. So welcome. So we are FEAST. We are a health justice organization working in South Seattle. So I'm gonna actually pass to Hina to introduce a little bit about us so you can get to know us. And just a heads up, we'll talk a little bit about the work that FEAST does, what we care about, the things that we organize around. And then later on in the presentation, we wanna get to know you and how food justice impacts you. So we're looking forward to a really collaborative presentation with all of you today. So I'll pass to Hina to talk a little bit about who we are and what we do.
Yeah, so FEAST is a youth-led organization that organizes for food justice in the South Seattle and South King County area. We work on improving health in schools and for our community. The schools that we serve are Taiyi High School, Evergreen High School, Rainier Beach High School, and Chief Sealth High School. Chief Sealth is where I'm from, or where I go to. In my job as a FEAST fellow or FEAST youth leader is I organize campaigns and I work with youth and staff at our school to help bring fresh, healthier, and culturally relevant foods to our schools.
Amazing. Yes. So yeah, exactly as Hina said, we work with young people in the South End and talk a lot about food and other social justice issues as well. So, but we are mainly focused around a couple of main components. So food justice and then also schools. Oh, sorry, one moment. Nice, love the Zoom times. But yeah, so we focus mainly on two components, food justice and then also work in schools. So we're gonna kind of break it down and talk about both of those things. And first off is food justice. So I'm gonna pass to Hina in a moment to talk a little bit about why we care about food justice, what are some of the issues that we see impacting our communities, and specifically how food justice impacts low income and BIPOC communities. So I'll pass it to you, Hina.
Yeah, thank you, Mari. So as we all know, food is really important. I am a big foodie, and especially what we consume in our body is really important. What we eat and how it makes us feel is also really important. Food has a huge role in our like well-being and our just like mental state, physical state, and all the states that we are in as a human being and as like others as well. But first, as we like think about how food impacts us, we must think about food apartheid. And what food apartheid is food apartheid recognizes that there are systems in place which makes it difficult for people living in low income, underrepresented communities to access fresh and healthy foods. And so as on this map, as you guys can see, this is a map of West Seattle and like South King County kind of. So it's like White Center is mostly, in White Center, there's mostly fast foods and foods that are like well processed. And as we go like more north, we see that there are meal prep foods. And so in White Center, my community, there's a lot of BIPOC folks, there's a lot of underrepresented people and a lot of Tracy, thank you. Sorry. And there's a lot of just community, low income community here. And if we go to West Seattle, we see there's a majority white, majority wealth in West Seattle. And over there's a lot of meal prep foods. And so, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Hina. So yeah, just going off of that, we really think about and use the word food apartheid and choose to use this language because of the fact that we notice that there are racist and classist motivations as to why certain communities have access to fresh, healthy, organic foods at, at easy distance versus other communities who don't. So this is something that we see really, really deeply impacting our communities and is something that we talk about all the time and are working really hard to change. And we do that specifically within schools. So a lot of our work so far at FEEST has been organizing around changing the school food system and changing the way school food is. And there are many reasons to that. So I think folks don't often think about school food when it comes to social justice and when it comes to the health of our communities, but schools are reflective of resources, are reflective of a community's wellness. And so, yeah, we really believe that school food is at the root of a lot of issues. And so I am going to pass to Hina to talk a little bit about what are some of the issues that impact students in schools because of school food, and what are some of the long-term impacts of the quality of the way school food is now?
Yeah, so the reason why we mainly organize around school food is because students tend to eat school food. Students tend to need food to go out throughout their days, fully energized, fully ready to work, fully ready to memorize things, ready to take tests, and feeling really energized as well. I feel like I already said energized, but energized. And so the food that we eat right now at school is really well processed, really not healthy, fresh, or culturally relevant. It doesn't represent our cultures. And so we want to change that. We want to make food. We want to bring foods that are healthy, fresh, culturally relevant. So students at our school could feel energized, could feel mentally prepared to go throughout their day at school. And I feel like some students in the morning, when they're not able to eat school or eat food at home, they go into school thinking that, hey, I'm gonna eat school food, I'm gonna be okay, I'm gonna have something in my stomach, and I'm not gonna focus on something other than food. But when they're at school, they're eating something that they're not really wanting to eat. They're eating foods that don't really represent their culture. They're eating foods that make them groggy and disgusting. And so because of eating these foods, they just cannot really focus at school. And so that's like one of the big reasons why we organize around school food.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Hina. Yeah, so these issues impact a lot of aspects of young people's lives. And so another important thing that we talk about at FEAST is the ties between quality of school food itself, and then the school to prison pipeline. And so first off, I'm curious if folks can give me a reaction or put something in the chat. How many of you are familiar with the school to prison pipeline and what this is or how this works? Just want to get a sense from the audience. Y'all can use your reactions or pop stuff in the chat. Okay, cool. Got a couple people. Nice. Great. Yeah. So the school to prison pipeline is this notion of the ways that students are kind of funneled into the criminal justice system. We see this a lot in low income and BIPOC communities, places where students are being over disciplined, over policed, especially at schools that have very strict disciplinary policies. We see a lot of students ending up involved in the criminal justice system in a way that's really harmful. And like, we see a lot of harm happening to our communities when they get involved in the criminal justice system. And so the way that this is linked to food is that we have seen through extensive research. Yeah, thanks, Jessica. Absolutely. I can send this out later or, at the end of the presentation, send you this image. But yeah, kind of the way, if you follow the flow of this image, we start to see some patterns here. So we start to see that young people that, are not getting good quality food, are not feeling good eating the food at schools, tend to go off campus, maybe go to grocery stores or stores nearby. And sometimes have to resort to other methods to get food. Or what we found a lot is that just because these are Black and brown communities, a lot of our students are over policed and racially profiled when they go out to grocery stores and places nearby to get food. And so this ends up with a lot of folks getting involved in the criminal justice system in a way that just because they're going out to get foods that are actually going to be nourishing to them and going to get foods that they are actually wanting to eat that day. And so we see a lot of ties. There's a lot of layers to this. I feel like we could, give a whole seminar on this situation, but for now, that's kind of the main points that we want to share with folks. And so kind of tied to that, we have talked with all of you about a lot of issues and problems that we're noticing. Talked about like all the problems and things that are wrong that we're seeing. And now we want to talk to you about like, how do we build solutions? How do we make a change? How do we take power when it comes to these things? And this is all coming from student voices. So with young folks like Hina, everybody in the cohort, we work together to figure out solutions to the issues that students are facing at schools. And the way we do that is through campaigning. So we want to talk a little bit about some of the work that FEEST has done in the past, and then talk a little bit about our campaigns. So I'm going to play this really sweet video that we made at summer camp a few weeks ago, or not a few weeks ago, about a year ago. So sit back and enjoy. There are a few, featured folks, Hina included in this video. So we'll just watch this. It's a short video. It's very nice.
I think the narrative is that young people can't organize because you have to have a certain amount of knowledge, or you need to have a certain status or position in the world to be able to organize. And so youth organizing is the youth taking back that space to advocate for themselves. FEEST works with students at 4 high schools in South Seattle and South King County. We see what happens when young people come together and claim their power. Youth at FEEST are organizing to improve conditions at their schools when it comes to food and health.
The school food feels pre-made, it's dry, cold. What sucks about it is that it forces kids off campus to go get food, and that's where the problems start coming in. Like being late for class, if you don't eat at all because you don't want to eat the school food, you're gonna be, low on energy for the rest of the day, you get grumpy, and that makes it hard for the teacher to teach, for kids to engage. That domino effect leads to kids, failing their classes or not doing well in school, all because they didn't have the energy to focus.
Food is a really important way that we celebrate and share our cultures.
We want healthy food. We want food that is relevant to our culture and not just burgers.
And our organizing is about building collective power to change policies that affect our health in our schools.
What I like about dinners is we get to make what we want. We're basically sharing good food and connecting while also building relationships.
We're reclaiming all of that from the racist systems that work to erase our culture, our families, and our bodies.
At FEAST, the students who are most impacted get a chance to say, no, we don't want this.
And now what's cool is we have a whole crew of students who are fired up and want change to happen. So we go to the decision makers with all the students behind us, and now it's gotten to the point where the district is actually listening to us and what we're saying and starting to put better food on the menu.
Last year in the Highline School District, we got pho, Caribbean chicken on the bone, squash curry, all on the district menu. All culturally relevant foods that students have fought for and won. One thing that we're really trying to make sure that we don't leave behind in our fight for better school food is the idea around joy and creativity. How do we prioritize joy in our work? How do we make sure that our events and our activities are creative enough that aren't just us having a tactic, but that there's something else going on? We're fostering a community at the same time. Our young people love to eat, so whenever food is anywhere near a feast, joy is there. Gathering around food is how we organize our community, connect with each other, and find common ground. We share our visions for the future and find ways to make real systemic change.
FEEST is making justice irresistibly delicious.
FEEST is making justice irresistibly delicious.
Irresistibly delicious!
Thank you all
Thank
so
you.
much for watching. Sorry, Hina, go ahead.
I was gonna be like, thank you all for watching, and I was gonna say like my highlights in these videos. I had like some highlights in these videos, as y'all can tell. My hair was kind of messy, but I mean, it was really fun. This was my first year at FEEST, and I was really scared throughout this video. I remember, or throughout this year, I was like really scared to meet new people and just like engage with people and like organize. But it was the funnest summer ever. I got to meet so many new people and made so many new friends, and everyone welcomed me with like hugs and open arms and smiles, and it was just a good time that I spent there.
Thank you, Hina, for sharing. Yeah, and thanks to all the folks in the chat giving us some love. Yeah, it's really sweet to see. I love the end of this video too, the folks saying justice. Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, exactly. So as Hina was saying, we have a cohort of young people every year. And so the video, as Hina was saying, is in summer camp that we do every year with our young people. And as the year goes on, we start to build out campaigns. So we start to figure out solutions together with young people leading all the way about the changes that we want to see in schools. And so the way that we build campaigns is really rooted in community. So during this cohort, right, we talk with young people, we figure out what are the most pressing issues that our young people are facing in schools, we come up with solutions to those things, and then we collaborate with other organizations nearby. We are always centering youth voices and really focusing on making tangible changes. And so that's a lot of the organizing work that we do. So this on the screen right now is one of our longest running campaigns. And I will pass off to Hina to explain kind of the components of it and how it goes.
Yeah, so as Bonnie said before, we first like identify what the problem is and what we want to change. And so here we said, we found that the school food was not fresh. So we demanded fresh foods, cooked from scratch, not frozen or packaged. Something else that we saw is that we found the food was the same thing. It was repeated. It was like boring. And so we demanded variety, which included culturally relevant foods to identify and to like bring out everyone's culture. And something that we also found was a problem was we found that school food was expensive. I know for some people had to pay $4 per day to get food, or per like a lunch day, for not even counting breakfast, for lunch to get food, for like to get school food, it was $4. And so we demanded free breakfast and lunch for all students.
Yes. So yeah, this is kind of our bigger, like, you know, mother drive goals, things that we're always working towards at FEEST. And so now you know a little bit about us, you've gotten to know about FEEST, you've gotten to know a little bit about the things that we care about, the work we do. And now we want to talk a little bit about how this impacts you. We would love to get to know you and talk about how food justice and the, you know, health equity might be impacting your life and your communities. And so we're going to do a classic FEEST activity. This is called Mapping It Out. We do it every year with our cohorts. And there's a great way to get to know your neighborhood and the ways that food apartheid and food access might be impacting you. So I'm going to pass to Hina to explain how this activity works. And we'll get into some conversation together.
Yeah, so this activity, I love this activity. It's one of my favorite activities. So this activity is where you either close your eyes, you can draw it out, you could make a list of it, you can make a list like physically or mentally, but just think about your neighborhood, think about what's near you, think about where the markets are, where the food stores are, where the restaurants you eat at, like how many of the restaurants there are or the markets there are, or just where are they, or if you have any. So just think about these things: markets and food stores, restaurants that you eat at, clinics, parks and green spaces, police and community centers. Take make a list of it. You can draw it out. You can mentally list it. It's up to y'all, but yeah.
Sweet. So yeah, we're gonna give folks about 6 minutes so yeah, grab a pen, grab a piece of paper. We'll give you about 6 minutes. I'll play some music and then we'll come together for some discussion. So let me get the music set up. All right. All right, folks, it is 4:30. I hope you got a chance to map out your neighborhood a little bit. We are gonna have some time for discussion, so no worries if you didn't get to kind of map everything out. But we would love to get into some discussion. So let me go to the next group. So yeah, in breakout rooms in just a moment, we would love to just have some space for reflection. So kind of take a look at your maps, take a look at the establishments and resources that are near you in your neighborhood. So think about, what kind of grocery stores are near you? Do you have a lot of fresh food, fresh organic places, PCCs, etc.? Do you have more convenience stores like 7-Elevens? Thinking about are you in Burger King land? Like, is there a bunch of McDonald's and Burger Kings near you versus maybe you have like a Whole Foods right next to your house, right? Thinking about these patterns. And then also thinking about if you have any local restaurants, if you live next to a lot of chains. So just kind of take a look at your map, just think about the establishments that are near you, what kind of businesses and resources are near you. And then in breakout rooms, we would love for everybody to discuss what kind of businesses are around you. So what do you have the most of and what do you have the least of in your neighborhood? And then also talk a little bit about why do you think your community might have, a cluster of a certain kind of resource versus is maybe lacking in other kinds of resources. So just some reflection, we're gonna be in groups of about 4 people. I will put you all into breakout rooms now and we'll only be there for about 5 minutes or so. So this is just like about a minute each, just kind of share some reflections on your map. Before we go in, Hina, do you have any stuff to add? Anything else you want to share with folks before they go into group work?
I do not think so, but yeah, I hope the conversations go well.
Cool. Thank you. So great. I'll put you all in breakout rooms and we'll be back in about 5 minutes. All right. And for folks that just came in, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. I am going to assign you all to some rooms, if that is okay with you. Welcome back, folks. Welcome back. All right. Cool. So let's get into it. So Hina, do you want to lead us through this first part of the discussion?
Yeah. So we're also going to be doing another discussion question, but this time everyone's going to be talking and you guys can unmute yourselves and just speak out. But the next question is, what do you think your community is lacking in resources or has an abundance of certain resources? So anyone can share either in the chat or by unmuting.
Yes. Also, if you just have any general reflections from looking at your map, we would love to hear it too.
I can share. This is Nicole. I live like kind of borderline. I'm officially like I'm in Seattle, but I'm really close to White Center, that weird area of like Seattle and unincorporated King County. And so one of the observation that I have is that in the White Center area, there's lots of ethnic businesses. And I think one of the reasons that some of the businesses move there is because, again, tax is lower because in unincorporated King County, you don't get taxed as high as if it was an official city. And the other piece too is that I don't see a lot of resources for housing because we've seen an increase in transient population and homeless population in the White Center area. And, they just get shift from like the boundaries of the city over to the unincorporated area where most low income folks live, and also in the areas which happens a lot is the ex-offenders get released in the area a lot because there are cheaper housing in the area. And for whatever other reasons, I'm sure there are systemic reasons why they're being released there. And so those are just kind of the observation. But in terms of the community, I can only speak from the perspective of the Vietnamese community in the White Center. From a lot of the businesses, we see our folks who are transient and just moving from one business to the other. So the community takes care of those folks. Like people would just come in and they'll just give them food, right? Because that's what we do as a community. So that's what I love about White Center.
Thank you so much for sharing, Nicole. Yeah, I think there's a lot of pieces to what you just shared, like, and it's actually something we're going to touch on later too. But right, like the pushing out of Black and brown people, Black and brown communities from Seattle, from the center of Seattle, and our food comes with us, right? So that's something that we'll touch on later as well. Thank you for sharing all of that, and love that your community is there. Like there's this community of care there. Yeah. Other folks' reflections?
And I second that. It's sad, like even in schools, to see families move to, in suburb or a little bit further out because they can't afford to live in Seattle. Yeah, there's a lot of things around, but what does that mean for the community that I'm used to, that I love, that I would love them to stay with, to see families struggling, that's something hard to swallow. So
yeah, absolutely, Saba. So are you saying like in places where there's a lot of resources, people are getting pushed out of there? Or are you saying like where your family and people are now, there's just not a lot of things? What
they're getting pushed out because they can't afford to stay in the community they would love to stay. It's like no option, right?
Right.
I wish that there is more opportunities for them to stay.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, absolutely. We noticed that a lot, right? These patterns of
because Seattle is like where the resources are. There's like nowhere else has resources like Seattle, and Seattle is so expensive that nobody can live here. And when they go out to in Seattle, they have resources. They're able to connect with family and have those resources. But if they move out, there's no resources. There's no, the food is even worse, in other areas further away, and you don't get that cultural aspect of it either in other cities outside of Seattle.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. Right. We see like this is a cultural hub. There's a lot of resources here in Seattle proper, especially in wealthier neighborhoods. But yeah, folks, I mean, because of gentrification, redlining, and all of these things, like people are being pushed out of communities that they have lived in for forever, and therefore being pushed to places that like have less resources or don't have as fresh food. And yeah, you are all sharing such like deep things and things that we notice all the time. So also I see in the chat Cynthia was saying lacking cultural appreciation and safe spaces for youth, especially during COVID. Absolutely, yes. Spaces for Black and Brown youth and just Black and Brown communities gathered generally are hard to find. So and then let's see. Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Cynthia's mentioning about the city grants processes and how it looks like there's a lot of barriers with BIPOC businesses being able to get granted permits and things like that. Yeah, we see that a lot as well. And there tends to be, a lot more local family-owned places and places that that people can afford to actually be there. So a lot of like restaurants owned by local families, POC families, are being pushed out of Seattle and out into other areas. But that's something that we'll also talk about later. But yeah, Hina, any other responses? Other folks, any reflections before we go on to the next part?
Yeah, I was just saying like they're getting pushed out and they're getting replaced with like overpriced yoga studios that no one can afford using. So yeah.
Or doggy daycares. Yep. Goat yoga is a thing now. That's another gentrifier now. Yoga with baby goats.
Right.
Yeah.
Honestly, like please give me the aunties doing Tai Chi any day, a long weekend, over just random fit people jogging.
Absolutely.
Nothing against fit people, honestly, but I miss my aunties doing Tai Chi.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So yeah, thank you all so much for sharing that. We're going to continue this conversation, but we also wanted to talk really quickly about you may have noticed that we had to map out police and police stations onto your maps. So we just wanted to talk a little bit about that and ask you all why you think we had to map out police, and see if any of you are kind of noticing any connections between police presence and the school to prison pipeline that we talked about earlier. So just generally, folks would love to know, why do you think we had you map out police, and how do you see police impacting the health of communities?
Wow, this one is near and dear to my heart. It's very frustrating. I'm in Federal Way, and we have a transit center here, and a police office opened up there. And then there's another community office that opened up. And the difference is, so there are 3 that are opened up. One opened up near the transit center. Another one opened up near a large multifamily housing development that is for, quote unquote, those at 60% of the area median income. So people look at that as low income housing. It's not. It's offering housing choice to large families, right? So a police station opened up there, and like 75% of the residents are BIPOC. Okay, large family. So their average family size is like 5. Lots of kiddos. And then another one opened up, but this was opened up near a golf course community who saw all these folks come into their neighborhood. And so they paid to have one of their community spaces turned into a police substation where police officers who are out on the beat to just come in, use the bathroom, and do some paperwork. Okay, notice the difference in the 3. So we've noticed that, and the two that were opened up near the transit station and the apartment complex are also serving schools that have the highest discipline rate of students of color, those with IEPs and special program and 504, and also have higher percentages of students on free and reduced meals, and also have a high percentage of students enrolled in the McKinney-Vento, which is assisting those families who are homeless, right? So there's a connection there. And disproportionately, when you map out where youth are being, where there's juvenile justice issues within the city, those neighborhoods where the police stations are have a higher percentage of youth of color being stopped and sent over to the prosecuting attorney's office when you do the mapping versus other parts of the city where we don't have the presence of police substations. I'm just saying. There is a strong connection between police access and schools and discipline rates and kids being sent and forwarded and referred to the juvenile justice system.
Wow, Cynthia, you said it all. Please get up here. Like, please take over the presentation. That was exactly everything that we have noticed at FEEST, and like, thank you for saying that so beautifully and so succinctly. Like, yes, exactly. Those are the patterns exactly that we notice. And we just hear so many stories of our young people feeling just like watched and over policed and just constantly surveilled, even for things into like going into Safeway, like just simple day-to-day things like that. So thank you so much for sharing that. Great. So yeah, exactly. We see a lot of things is tied to the health and wealth of our communities. And so we want to spend a little bit of time talking now about how food justice impacts you specifically. And we're going to do a little storytelling, share a little bit of ourselves as well. And we first want to talk about this first question, which I'll pass to Hina to lead us through.
Yeah, so the first question is, what are ways food access impacts you, and what experience do you have with food apartheid? I can go first. A way that food access really impacts me is that I grew up in White Center, so I have access to a lot of fast food areas like McDonald's, Taco Bell, Taco Time. And growing up, I thought that was like a really good thing because I really loved eating fast food. I thought it was really, really good. And my parents, both of them, when they first immigrated here, and even till today, my dad works in fast food right now, but when they first came here, they both worked in fast food, and every night they used to bring me like burgers and French fries and things like that I always used to eat, and soda and things like that. And so now, because of that, both of my parents have diabetes and multiple health issues from working in these places. So that's like that's really how food access really impacted me in my life. I'd love to hear y'all stories.
Don't you worry about it, Jim. I'm gonna have all three of them in jail. Hey man, I said two.
So thank you so much for sharing that, Hina. Yeah. And totally okay if you are also just kind of wanting to reflect on this on your own. But yeah, we just kind of wanted to talk about maybe if you're seeing any patterns, if you've lived in different parts of Seattle and noticed differences there in the food that you got to access, things like that, kind of like Nicole was talking about, right? Living in White Center specifically, and also noticing these patterns with Seattle proper. So yeah, another thing that we wanted to talk about are what foods are important to you and your community. So we're kind of talking about like, right, food apartheid, all these things, but also like, what are the things that unite us? Like, what are the things that bring us joy and bring us together? What are the foods that really bring you a lot of joy and togetherness with your community? So we'd love to hear from folks about this question too, but for me, I just like to share this story that, so I'm from Venezuela, which is in the South America, in the Caribbean. And when I first came here, there was no Venezuelan food anywhere. Like I came here for college and I was just like making arepas in the dorms, you know, just like trying to find ways to like bring my food here. And they put a Venezuelan restaurant in U District. And so I started going there a lot, and it just suddenly became this like huge community space for Venezolanos everywhere. And so like we did like there was this voting that happened in my country, elections, and so those happened there. Like we had music nights. There's always like somebody with a guitar with a cuatro there. Like there's so many people that I met there, and such a sense of community that I gained from just having a food place that like was from my country, my home. So yeah, curious if any other folks have noticed you know, patterns with like what foods are important to you, where your community gathers. And then also Hina, if you want to share foods that are important to you.
Yeah, food that's like important to me is biryani, which is this spicy Indian rice. My mom makes the best biryani ever. And here in White Center, we don't really have a great biryani place, or have a biryani place, or a place that sells biryani. And so to get like biryani, we would have to go to like the east side or the north end. But here at home, my mom makes it all the time, and so I enjoy it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Hina. I'm noticing now the time, we only have a few minutes left. So if you all, Lee, thank you for sharing. Yes, soul food, so good. If other folks would like to put in the chat foods that are important to you and your communities, I would love to see them. I think we have to move forward for the sake of time, but like love to hear the foods that people gather around. So vegan plant-based foods. Yeah, thank you, Cynthia. Halal food, yes. Thank you all. And then, yeah, the next thing that we were going to talk about, we've already touched on a lot. So like some of this patterns around gentrification and redlining and immigrant communities being pushed out of the city, and our food going with us. So yin, hot pot. Oh, hot pot is so good. I miss going to hot pot in person. So yeah, just for the sake of time, I'm going to move forward. But we want to talk a little bit about FEEST one more time, and talk a little bit about what makes us so special. So what's kind of our secret sauce, you know, our secret ingredient. So our motto is making justice irresistibly delicious. And so everything that we do at FEEST, we want to do centered around a culture of joy and togetherness and fun. And so I'll pass off to Hina to talk a little bit about what she loves about FEEST, and what her experiences being a youth leader with us have been like.
Yeah, something that I love about FEEST is I always feel safe and I always feel welcomed. I always feel like a warm hug is supporting me throughout my journey. Whether if I'm like struggling in something, I know I can rely on FEEST to come help me. And I am also feeling like with organizing, what I love about organizing with FEEST is that I feel like I'm really making a change and I'm really making a difference, and they're willing to listen to me, and they're willing to put my feedback and put my input into what we're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, we love working with young people, and like, yeah, just love this community so much, the FEEST fam. So yeah, thanks to folks that are sharing in the chat. We now just want to, as we're moving towards concluding today, we want to talk a little bit about how to get involved with us at FEEST. So first of all, please stay in touch with us. Like, we love folks from all communities, and want to connect with folks like in all professions and in all areas. If you care about food, like, come join us. So please stay in touch with us. We have an Instagram. It's called @FEEST Seattle. So awesome. Yes, Arista, thank you for putting that in the chat. We also have an action center. So this is part of our website. It has kind of like all of the things that you can do to support FEEST. And then also Give Big is coming up, and we have a great goal, and we would love for folks to donate, you know, however much you can. These are the donations that like keep our org running. These are the donations that help us kind of keep on with this awesome programming for our young people. So would love you all to join the FEEST fam in that way as well. So yeah, these are kind of the main ways to get involved. Also, if you all have any high schoolers in your life that go to any of the 4 schools that we serve, we are currently hiring. So if you have any high schoolers, know a high schooler, are a high schooler yourself, you can apply to be in our cohort next year. So that is on our website as well. So Jackie, thank you so much for being here. just as a checkout, I know we only have a few minutes, so I think we won't do the Jamboard, but would love for folks to either unmute or put in the chat, what do you appreciate about your community, or what do you hope for the future of your community? This is our checkout question for today. But yeah, thank you, Cynthia. Thanks, Tracy. Thank you all for participating and being with us. And then I'll pass to Hina for any kind of concluding words.
Thank you all for joining us. I really had a good time talking to the people I did in the breakout rooms, and I really had a good time speaking with everyone and really just sharing about my experience in my life at FEEST. Thank you all for coming.
Awesome. And as you all kind of trickle out, I'll read some of these responses in the chat. So Sheila said resilience, absolutely amazing. Damika, thank you for being here. Nicole, thank you. Yes, absolutely. Joy is everything. Roxana, thank you for being here and listening. Celia, creativity, absolutely. Yes. Yin, thank you. Thanks for your support with the session today. Taylor, thank you for being here. Thanks, everyone. Yeah. Yes, awesome. Thanks, Cynthia. Yeah. Thank you all so much. Yeah, if you want to put your questions in the chat, we'll also be, I can hang out in the room for a couple more minutes if folks have any questions for us or comments or just want to like hang out for a bit. I can be around for the next 5 minutes or so, but thank you all so much for joining us.